located in southeast Wisconsin. Come discover Racine County. Plan your visit today at visitracinecounty.com.
Again here at the Visit Racine County offices. I'm Arnav Pokhrel. That's Karsten Luedtke, and that is Coach John Burke. This is another episode of Talking 262, and we're very happy to have Coach Burke on here with us. Me and Karsten introduced ourselves last week, so we'll say to you that I'm the media director. Karsten's one of the interns. Coach, we'll leave the floor to you if you want to introduce yourself. USLW League head coach for year number 2, John Burke. Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Well, just love coaching this team. This group is dedicated, devoted. They train hard every day. We were up at 7 a.m. this morning. Thanks to Polonia. They gave us their field to use, and we had a great session. Looking really forward to the game tomorrow. But yeah, not really much to say about me. I just think the team is going to be special this year, and I hope a lot of people get out and watch them.
I mean, we'll get into the specifics of your career. You got a few accolades that I know you don't want to mention, but I will mention for you. But before we do that, we'll do an episode preview. We've got the women's divisional rundown in terms of scheduling. Also on the men's side, we'll look at that. We'll do our opponent previews. We've got Chicago City tomorrow for the women's. And then next Saturday, we've got Rochester at home for the men's team. We'll do a quick interview with you, Coach, and then we'll do our look around the leagues, which is brought to you by Carthage College. So right away, let's jump into it for the women's divisional rundown, the schedule for the upcoming week. Me and Karsten are going to be keeping a running tab of our predictions for games. And, we'll see who comes up the better of the two at the end of the season. But first game on the schedule for the women's side, tomorrow at 4 p.m. in the USLW League. It's Bavarian United SC at Rochester FC. Last year, this matchup finished 1-0 in favor of Bavarian United. I mean, this is two teams that love to play defense. I think Bavarian, we saw last year, play a lot of defense, and Rochester has made a lot of good additions on the defensive side as well. My prediction, I've got Bavarian United in a close one. Karsten, I think we're feeling the same here.
Yep, we are.
All right, so Bavarian United, we think, have the win. I mean, it'll be a good game no matter what. This is two teams that gave us a pretty good matchup both times last year, Coach. And I mean, I know we can't ask you for predictions, but I mean, two teams that love playing defense.
Yeah, I love Bavarians. They're a great group. I've coached a lot of those girls in the past and know their whole coaching staff very, very well. So I got to admit, I root for them a bit.
Yeah, of course. It is a rivalry in terms of RKC and Bavarian United being in Wisconsin, but also it's hard not to root for another Wisconsin team to do well because obviously you're trying to grow the game in the state, and that's always like a big point of emphasis, I assume, in terms of you want other teams in Wisconsin to do well as well. So I think we're all rooting for Bavarians here. We want our Wisconsin teams to do well.
Yep.
Next matchup on Sunday, 2 hours before our kickoff, is Chicago Dutch Lions at Riverlight. And once again, I think Riverlight has done a great job as an organization in their first season. We touched on this last week, Karsten. They have done a great job of bringing in very experienced people in terms of previous experience in the leagues, previous experience in college. And they take on Chicago Dutch Lions, who lost some of those people to Riverlight. So
I think they're going to be in a good spot.
I think Riverlight's in a great spot. I'm right there with you. I've got Riverlight winning that game, and I think
so do I.
Same there for you. And, Coach, I mean, Riverlight's first year in the league, and I know you've been seeing some things around how they've been operating. I mean, they seem like a really well put-together organization, which is a shock because they just were announced in late 2023, early 2024, and for them to put together a great team and a great staff as well is such a big thing for Chicago.
Yeah, well, that's possible. I mean, that's the great thing about USLW. We were announced last year at the beginning of March, and we put together a fantastic team and had a great run. So that's the unpredictability of USLW, and that's part of what makes it a great league.
Next up, we've got on Sunday, the 7 p.m. game, obviously Chicago City at RKC. So we'll skip that one. We'll save that for our opponent preview. But we go on to Wednesday, when Rochester FC travels to Chicago. This game last year was Rochester's only victory away in Chicago against the number 2 team in the division. They won 1-0. This year, though, I don't see it being the same. Last year, we saw a heavily rotated Chicago City squad in that matchup. I think Chicago City kind of knows that they can't take any games off now, and so I think they come out there with their best squad in that Wednesday game, especially early on in the season. You really can't drop those games.
Yeah, I think Rochester's going to win, though.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I think they're going to win.
That'll be a fun one as well. I think a lot of these games will be great. Next up, we've got on Thursday, Minnesota Aurora FC at Chicago Dutch Lions. Last year, that one finished 4-0 Aurora. Aurora's got a new coach this year, and you lose Coach Luedtke to U.S. Soccer, so she's going on to bigger and better things, but they still are a great organization. I think they're going to win this one as well, and I think you're right on the line with me. But, Coach, for you, you look at this Aurora team in their 2 years, haven't lost a single game. What has to change for them now that they're bringing in a new coach? I think, what is the mentality in that kind of setting?
Well, playing at Aurora last year was one of the highlights of our season, playing in front of 6,000 people. It was absolutely wonderful. The only downside of playing in front of 6,000 people is it was an away game. We want that happening at Pritchard.
Right.
I don't know, we'll put 6,000 people, but we want that at Pritchard anyway. Aurora's got a great program. They're an amazing group. Tough to bet against Aurora.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Next up for Aurora, they continue their trip in Chicago at River Light FC. And this is the first one where I think you've got a new coach for Aurora. You've got a very experienced coach for River Light in Lat Shaw, who comes away from Chicago Dutch Lions to coach USL 2 and USLW for River Light. This is the one that I have as a draw. I think River Light is, on a come up. I think maybe some new coach struggles for Aurora. You're trying to work in with a new coach. I think this will be the first time in USLW history that Aurora drops points in the regular season. I just really like the way River Light has been set up. And, Karsten, I'm looking at this sheet, and you've gone even more than me. You're saying that River Light's going to take this one.
Yeah, I was going back and forth on it, but I think the experienced coach at the end, I think that's gonna carry him.
Yeah, once again, we talk about Aurora being a really good organization, kind of setting the bar in terms of the Heartland division, but also you look at a team like River Light in the staff that they have, in their general manager and Heather and their coach in Lasha. I think they are set up for success, and I think it'll be fun when we get to play them, but also this one's going to be just an amazing match to watch.
Yeah, I don't think Aurora drops points until they play us.
Really? Okay. I love that.
Love that confidence.
We'll move on to the men's side for USL 2 in the Deep North Division. And these are ones that we can actually ask your opinion on because you're not the men's coach. So, first off, we've got Minneapolis City at Bavarian United SC. That one's today at 7 p.m. Minneapolis City is a team that has already played a game this season. They played last week on the 11th in the Minnesota Super Cup, which is a really fun tournament to watch as an outsider because you're watching some of the best teams in pre-professional play in Minnesota play against each other. They won against Rochester FC 2-1. I've got Minneapolis City taking this one as well. I think Bavarian United, they made a lot better of a squad this year, but I still think just the fact that Minneapolis City has a game under its belt already, you've got the game experience, you know what you need to improve on. I think that kind of helps them going on into this early stages of the USL 2 season.
I totally agree with all that.
And for you, Coach, I don't know how much you were up on the men's side.
Oh, yeah.
You were there a few games,
Yeah.
but Minneapolis City is a team that has improved a lot from last year, and they bring back some really good players. I think we're all obviously going to be rooting for Bavarian because they're a Wisconsin team, and we always want to see Wisconsin teams win. But, I look at this Minneapolis City team, it's really good. And so,
Yeah,
I'd ask your opinion on this one.
I'm loyal to my friends at Babs. Babs in an upset.
Perfect. I love to see it. Next up, also on Saturday night, so also happening tonight, St. Croix Legends at Rochester FC. That matchup last year finished 1-0 thanks to a goal from Kevin Andrews, who is now an RKC player. So, RKC is able to add a goal scorer in Kevin Andrews, but St. Croix Legends have made some really good signings, and we'll get into that next week in our men's divisional preview. But I think St. Croix takes this one as well. I think they've got a really well put together squad, and also in a really good location up in Stillwater, Minnesota. You're right outside of the cities. So I've got St. Croix as well. Are you the same, Karsten?
Yeah, same deal.
Well, I think we're pretty even on a lot of these.
We are.
For St. Croix, but two teams in Minnesota. It's always fun to travel to Minnesota, and I'm excited. I'll get to go there a few times for Aurora games and Rochester games this year on the W side. But Rochester's got a great stadium, RCTC Stadium. I know you were there last year. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think St. Croix is going to win that one. I think they're the better of the two Minnesota teams, but we'll see. I mean, like I said, on the USLW side, same is true with the men. These rosters change dramatically from season to season. So really until teams get a few games in, you really don't know what it's going to look like for sure.
For sure. We'll keep moving on, chugging along. We're going to keep it in Minnesota as well. St. Croix Legends at Minneapolis City SC on Wednesday the 22nd at 7 p.m. This is the first one I think we're differing, Karsten. I've got St. Croix. You've got Minneapolis City. So let me know the reasoning behind that one.
I think Minneapolis City. I mean, I think that Minneapolis City is just. I think they're a good team.
Good team. I mean, they've got the game.
I think it'll be they got the game experience advantage, and then also, I think all these games are just going to be really close as well. Such a competitive division, so
great.
I just think they're going to win it.
Great point.
It'll be really close.
Very competitive division in the Deep North as well. We'll keep chugging along here. Bavarian United SC at Rochester FC, and yet again we differ here. I've gone with Rochester. I think they won both games last year by a score of 2-1 and then a score of 1-0. So they did the sweep against Bavarian last year. I'm going to go. I think Rochester will get that first one of the season on Wednesday night against Bavarian. Karsten, you're sticking with the team in Wisconsin in Bavarian United SC. Coach, I assume you're the same.
Babs in an upset.
All right.
Yeah.
Babs in an upset. I don't know if it's too much of an upset, especially this early in the season. But we are always going to be rooting for the team in Wisconsin. And then we close off the week with Rochester at RKC Third Coast. So let's get into these previews for the teams. We're going to start with Chicago City SC because that's a team we play tomorrow. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. First off, Coach, I mean, just tell me how excited you are to be back in this league, playing at Pritchard Park. How excited are you?
Yeah, I mean, my excitement is driven by the excitement of the women. They have come to every training session with absolute devotion to the task, and they look great. They truly look great. We are still getting kids back from college, so it's going to be an interesting mix. But I think we this morning showed that we can be competitive and more than competitive. I think our goal, we talked about it this morning, we're going to be a playoff team. That's our goal. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
So we're going to take a look at the opponent now. Chicago City finished second in the division. They lost to Aurora, and then they had that loss to Rochester as well. They're returning Scarrett Pineda, who scored 4 goals in 11 appearances, but they're losing their top goal scorer in Sophia Jamie, who had 11 appearances and 6 goals. So you keep 1 goal scorer, you lose 1 goal scorer. I mean, once again, you mentioned it, Coach. Early on in the season, you're just kind of figuring out what to put together on a roster. So what are you looking at tomorrow in terms of, I don't know if you've looked at the opponent yet, kind of seeing what they're like. What are you looking at in terms of how Chicago City played last year? What do you think is going to change this year?
Well, in this first game, I talked to the women this morning. I said, we don't want to drop points. We don't want to drop points anytime, anywhere. But we're really focused on our ability to possess, our ability to play good soccer. We know that we have to develop as a team. We're not going to land a finished product. So if we have patience with each other and support each other, I think we'll develop and we'll see what this result ends up being. And whether it is win, loss, or tie, we'll then take stock and move on from there. And I have absolute confidence in the women approaching it in a professional way and accepting the result and using that result to make the next game better.
And we talked about it last week with owner Wayne Howard, but it's a game last year that kind of, the second game, I should say, was there was some refereeing things that went on. And so you look at it this year, clean slate, you go into that first game. What's your mindset rather than just the players? What are you thinking about when you're standing in that technical area? As soon as that whistle happens, what are you looking at in terms of how play is developing? What are you looking at?
Well, our focus is to make sure, first and foremost, that we prepare our women for their next college season. I mean, we might be a little bit different than some other clubs, but that is our focus. We want kids to come in and know that they're going to be well prepped for their next season if that's where they're at, if they're in the college level. And that's really how we've sold being a part of this team. And the women have bought into that. They saw last year that being on this team was something that built them up rather than tore them down. So we're going to really look at trying to give each individual player an opportunity to express themselves on the field, to play with freedom, to play without fear of reprisal from fans and coaches. So we ask the fans to be supportive too. And I think that creates a great energy. The kids can play without fear. And I think the creativity comes out when they play without fear.
And you're returning a good amount of players, but also we've made a lot of new players have come in that have really kind of raised the standard from last year. I mean, how excited are you looking at the new group of girls and also the returning group of girls who came in last year as high school seniors, went off to college, got that season of experience? I mean, how excited are you just looking at the roster that you've put together and some of the players that have come in and really shown in training?
Yeah, in preseason, you get very excited about the individual players and their abilities. Once the season starts, you start to get excited about how they play together. And so Sunday is my first opportunity to see how we play together against an opponent. And that's always more fascinating to me as a coach. I mean, I love seeing individual skill, and we saw a lot of that this morning. But I really want to see how they gel, how they come together. We have so many players on this team who bind us with their personalities, their fun-loving approach to the game. And I think that's the greatest joy I get out of this, the quality people, the quality women that I get to work with. They are extraordinary. And I wish our fans could have more opportunities, not just to see them play, but to talk with them. And I mean, we have one player who's going to miss on Sunday because she's doing service work in Guatemala. I mean, these are quality people. And that's really what gives me joy as a coach.
And Karsten, for you, I mean, first home game in 10 months that you're going to be at Pritchard Park working. I know I'm lucky to have you here as producing the game for us tomorrow. I mean, how excited are you from just like a staff or even like a fan perspective? How excited are you to be back at home in Racine?
I'm so excited. I've missed it so much. It was really fun to watch. I really enjoyed it, and I've just slowly liked soccer more and more, watching each and every game.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. You weren't a soccer fan coming into your time with the club last year, and you kind of just fell in love with the game as the season progressed. I mean, talk about what made you fall in love with. I mean, what happened? What was the driving force behind you coming back this year?
I really love the people I work with. Wayne, Brian, they were really awesome to be with. Tyler, the tech guy. I thought I had a great group of people by me, and I thought it was a really fun season. I wanted to come back for it, and I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow night we kick off the 2024 season at Pritchard Park at 7 p.m. We hope to see you there in person. If you can't, we'll be live streaming this one on our YouTube. So if you're watching this live, you can subscribe. Links are already posted for the game tomorrow. We'll go live at 6:45 with kickoff at 7. But that's not the only game this week. We've got Rochester FC next Saturday. So in 1 week exactly for the men's home opener. And preview of this matchup last year, it finished a 6-1 result in Racine, and it was a 3-0 result in Rochester. So RKC able to do the double over RFC last year. Rochester finished 5th last year in their first season in USL 2 with a 4-2-6 record. Their best win was a 5-1 victory over Minneapolis City. They're returning a couple of really good players, and we'll talk about this next week as well, but mainly their leading goal scorer, Jake Parrish, is back. They have a new player, an outside back from St. Bonaventure, who's teammates with some of our guys from St. Bonaventure here at RKC. But they do lose one of their main players and starting goalkeeper, Kieran Brown. He played 11 games last year. He's now at Reading United. They have a game tonight as well. A couple of center backs and a couple of midfielders as well that started 11 or 12 games for them are no longer with the team. So it's a completely new you're still trying to find, who's going to replace Ethan Hoard, who's going to step in the back sticks while we wait for some goalkeepers to come in. It's there's a lot of questions in the air, but we do have a whole week. So tell me what you're thinking when you look at this Rochester matchup next week on Saturday.
I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think Rochester having all that experience under their belt, that'll really help them out. But I think RKC's got a whole week to figure some stuff out, so I think they'll be ready.
And Coach, for you, when you come into a game, new season, and the other team comes in having experience, having played a few games before, how do you think the mindset changes? Does it change at all, or you kind of stick to your game plan? Whatever they throw at us, we will just throw it right back at them? What's the mindset for you?
I think you really have to go in and play the way you want to play. In that first game, you have a vision with your team of how you want to play. And that's how you start the game. And I told my players, we have a tactical and tactical approach that we're going to begin with, and then we might modify that. And we talked about some ways that might change depending on how the game goes forward. So I think you just come in that first game with this idealistic vision of what the team will look like when they come together, and you just have to be accepting of the reality that occurs, and then make adjustments as you go. But I think the key to our team, and we talked about this a little bit this morning, we talked about a lot this morning, the key to this team is that they are so accepting of each other where they're at. So you have your skill set, and you play within that skill set. And your skill set might not be as fully developed as someone else's, but if you play within yourself, you're going to be able to do good things for our team. And we have an extraordinarily diverse group of women in terms of skill level, and they gel well. But even more than that, not to make the answer too long, but I think if parents are listening to this podcast, I would say to them, you're constantly looking for role models. You're constantly looking for people that you can hold up to your young girls and say, hey, this is the way you want to be when you're a young woman. And so many times we're disappointed by what happens when role models pop up and they don't quite live up to what we would hope. And I am a father of 4 daughters. I'm always looking for role models. And I'll tell you, this group of RKC USLW women, I saw them coaching some Polonia kids this week, and the excitement level that they were able to transmit to those little kids was absolutely priceless. I mean, as a father, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, this is what I want for my daughters. And so we do a lot of that with RKC. So it's not just about coming to a game and sitting in the stands and that's the end of the transaction. It's all about, hey, we want to, connect with you. We want to do clinics. We want to do reach out events to them. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for parents to get great people in front of their kids.
So that's all we have for the opponents. We've only got 2 opponents this week. I know the future weeks will get busier, but we're going to step aside. We'll be right back on Talking 262. We're going to talk a little bit more to USLW League head coach John Burke when we return.
Located in southeast Wisconsin, come discover Racine County. Plan your visit today at visitracinecounty.com.
All right, we're back on Talking 262. We're going to talk a little bit more with head coach John Burke, who is the head coach of our USLW League side. Coach, you mentioned it just before the break, but getting out with Polonia on Wednesday night, I was there. I got to witness it as well. I mean, how important was that for you just to see your players getting involved in the community and making it more than just soccer at that point? You're getting involved and you're setting yourself as an example for the youth players who are eventually going to be stepping up and playing, whether it's U12 or U13, continuing to move up in the youth ranks. I mean, how important is it for you to get out in the community, get involved?
Oh, it's so important. I came over from my youth practice, and so the training had already been started by my players. And the first thing I said to them, the first thing that really struck me was they were already using the first names of the girls from Polonia. And I said, that's everything to those kids. You're calling them by name. You have no idea what 10-year-old girl feels like when someone they look up to calls them by name. And so they just instinctually, the RKC women just instinctually know what to do to really connect with the younger girls. And I think it comes from many of our women having come through those ranks, and they remember what was meaningful to them. And so the Polonia event was wonderful. We've done many events like it, where those kids got to work one-on-one with our RKC women. And I know Wayne is such a massive proponent of this too. So Wayne and I are on the same page, and it was a great event.
Speaking of Polonia, real quick, I mean, we've got another event with Polonia tonight, the beer garden event. I know the players from both men's and women's sides will be making an appearance tonight. I mean, what's the event plan for you, and how excited are you for getting out in the community tonight as well?
Yeah, just meet and greet, try to put a face on our club, and we want to make sure that people don't just have a relationship with us from the stands. We want them to have a relationship with us on the field, with their kids, socially, all of those kinds of things, because we're trying to build more than a team. We're trying to build a community.
What was it like being inducted into the Wisconsin Soccer Hall of Fame?
Well, having my family and friends all around was very special. One of my top soccer kids, who I've coached for many, many years, top soccer's program that I've run for 25 years for children with special needs, and Paul was one of the people who did the induction speech. So Robert Williams and Paul just gave very kind induction speeches, and then I got an opportunity to talk a little bit and thank a lot of people that have been instrumental in my career. And being in a room of so many people that I've been on the sidelines with for years was extraordinary. Joining that group, it's a very small group of people in the Wisconsin Soccer Hall of Fame. So it is a great, great honor. But the best part about it was just the night my youth team, they came, they bought a table, and they came and they had presents for me. I'm a big Liverpool fan. They had all this Liverpool stuff for me. So that's really what I loved most about the award. Is great, but what I loved about the event was the time with family and friends and players.
And keeping up with the awards, Coach, I mean, we have to talk about the Max Preps National Coach of the Decade Award from 2010 to 2019. For your time at, if I'm not mistaken, Catholic Memorial High School. What was that like? I mean, obviously you left a big legacy there in terms of girls soccer at Catholic Memorial, but getting that recognition as well, I mean, what was going through your mind when you first heard about that?
Yeah, I had no idea the award even existed. Someone sent me a link, and it was to the CBS Sports Max Plus coaches of the decade, and I just started scrolling through it, and I saw my name for girls soccer to be selected as the one girls soccer coach in the country for that award for Coach of the Decade was mind-blowing. But when I think back, I just put my heart and soul into that program. When I took over that program, it had a losing record historically, and had never won a conference title, never won a state title. And I just I took it on as my project, and we built it from the absolute ground up, and went on to win 14 conference titles, 14 state titles, and a national championship. This tiny little school was named the #1 high school girls team in the country. So that was very satisfying. I think maybe one of the reasons why I see it as a team award, not just for me, was that we also got it done in the classroom with service work. We were one of 4 teams in the country given the Platinum Award, which combined sportsmanship. We didn't get a single card. Well, here we are traveling all around the country playing the top teams in the country. I mean, we were a very unusual high school team. We'd go down to South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, California. We'd go anywhere. Anyone we could find that was a top-notch team, we went and played. And we would go through an insanely competitive schedule, and we didn't get a single card the entire season. Not one yellow, not one red, not on the coaching staff side, not on the player side, and won a state title, nationally ranked, GPA that was over 4.0 weighted GPAs. So that, I think, was maybe why the award came our way, is we were the whole package. And it was very difficult to do. I mean, since I left there and came over to here and some other teams, they haven't even gone back to state. So you realize then, I don't think you realize until after you leave or retire from a place, the impact that you might have. And now looking back and seeing that before and after, it looks a lot different than it did during the time. That's pretty satisfying.
What was the moving factor behind making the jump from high school to college soccer at Bryant and Stratton College?
Just greater challenges. I think there's always a little bit of anxiety that we get too comfortable. And at least I have that anxiety. So I'm always just trying to push the limits a little bit, and still connected to the high school game. I volunteer to help many other coaches. I do camps for coaches. I help with an urban rural cooperative with Milwaukee St. Joe Antietam and Johnson Creek. So still much involved in it, love it, but really have enjoyed branching out. And USLW has been just a great experience. Been a lot of fun.
And for Bryant and Stratton College, I mean, what are some of the biggest differences? Just, I mean, I know the game's entirely different, but from you and the coaching and I guess now a recruiting standpoint, what are some of the things you had to adjust personally when you made that jump?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was taking over a program that had not achieved much at all. In fact, I took over the program and there were only 6 players in the program, and was able to build that over 3 seasons to become the number 12 ranked team in the nation. So that was satisfying. That's what I like to do. USLW here, RKC, didn't exist. Wayne called me. Hey, we want you to lead this new franchise. I mean, he's speaking my language when he says something like that. I love doing that. It's what I did, at Catholic Memorial. It's what I did at Bryant Stratton. It's what I'm doing here. That's what really gives me a lot of energy going forward.
Why did you end up deciding to come back?
Come back to, from RKC for a second season? It wasn't even a decision. It was, I think a big part of it is the relationship that Wayne and I have built over the years. We're both devoted to this project, and we're both willing to sacrifice for this project and try to build it together. So I believe in Wayne, and I believe in this project, and it's a lot of fun. People often ask me, hey, you get up at 5 a.m. and usually get home around 10. How is that? Why do you do that? Why are you working so hard and so long? And I said, I'm not digging ditches. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was young, I worked road construction and I dug ditches. This isn't digging ditches. So I guess it doesn't seem like that difficult. Other people from the outside look at it and think, oh my gosh, how can you manage all that? But like I said, it's not digging ditches. It's doing something I absolutely flat out love.
What were some of the takeaways that you had, from last year in USLW? What were some of the things you learned? Expansion franchise, you're playing 12 games over the summer. What are some of the biggest takeaways you had?
Yeah, appreciating that your players have a life of their own. I always told the players, and I hope they would say that I live this, I walk the walk. I said to them, I understand you have a life outside of RKC, and I always want to be respectful of that. I want everything you have when you're with us. But for example, if you have an opportunity to go to Guatemala to serve impoverished people for a week and a half, I donated to her trip. You got to go. You're young. These are the kinds of experiences you need to have. So, with women at this age, in college and beyond, they have a vibrant life that they're living now outside of soccer. When you're dealing with younger kids, soccer is their life in some cases. That's what they're focused on. That's what they're dialed into. Most of the women on this team have jobs. They're getting through college. Some of them are going to be soon starting families. I mean, these are adults who need first and foremost to be respected as such. And I think that's one of the reasons why RKC has had such great success initially too, is women know that they can be a part of this team, be respected, feel valued, feel safe. And that's not always the case. I mean, we've heard all the horrible stories about people who just act horribly toward their players. They know that they can come here and get a great experience.
What do you think has changed the most from last year to this year on the RKC team?
The competitive fire. Last year, everybody knew that we were putting things together quickly. There was no other option. It just was the nature of the situation, getting approved so late in the process. We were the last team in the entire USLW last year. So I think everyone appreciated that we're going to go. We're going to try to be competitive. When we beat Green Bay Glory, the Green Bay Glory announcer famously said, "This is the biggest upset in Wisconsin soccer history in the last 20 years." And this was someone who knows soccer really well. So I think we all understood that we just needed to band together and do the best we could and compete each day. This year, we want to make the playoffs. It's a totally different attitude. We're focused on not only having all of the good experiences we had last year, but winning on a regular basis.
So in terms of just coaching, I mean, you've coached for a very long time. What keeps you going? Like, what do you enjoy most about just being in that position of leadership, being able to, coach up, whether it's, high school, college, USLW? What have you enjoyed the most during your time coaching?
Yeah, it's the unpredictability of it. So, the other thing I really love to do is teach literature. So that's fairly predictable. I go into class, I have my plan, I know what I want to teach. I absolutely love it. It invigorates me every single day to teach the literature I most love. And I know really well how it's going to go every day. You're going to get different comments from kids, different insights, and there's going to be some of that, but you kind of know what's going to happen. With high-level soccer, the unpredictability of it is what I find most intriguing. You can have all the plans you'd like. You can script it out. You can think you know exactly how it's all going to go, and in the first 10 minutes, it could be an entirely different thing. And in the sport of soccer, more so maybe than any other sport. So I love that about it, that it challenges the coach to be constantly thinking about ways to adjust to the unpredictable nature of the game. And what I truly love about soccer, it's so extraordinarily collaborative because I have to teach my players how to respond to that unpredictability on their own as a team, because there are no timeouts. I get halftime. That's it. I can give them some instruction from the sidelines a bit, but that's pretty limited. So soccer, unlike some other sports, you have to teach the team to be self-sufficient. They have to be able to figure it out. So ahead of time, they already have to be thinking through, if this happens, then this. If this happens, then this.
And finally, for you, as we wrap up this segment, Coach, I want to talk to you 2 questions here. A, what got you into coaching? And B, you mentioned teaching literature.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage, being in a school setting and then you kind of flip a switch into coaching? How do you manage the 2 different worlds there?
Yeah, I'll take the second question first. A typical day for me was, training at 6:30 in the morning, the high school kids that I work with, because that's the only time I have, right, before school. And then I teach the school day, and then I have training with my youth team right after school, and then I drive down to Racine to do the training with the women's team. So I get such different levels of soccer throughout the day, which I think is intriguing and wonderful. And like I said, I love what I do, so it's easy. The first question was, what was that again?
What got you into just like
Yeah.
it's a start for you?
Man, it's interesting. There's a woman by the name of Laura Moynihan, and for whatever reason, I don't know, I was very young. I think part of it is she's a very adventurous woman, and I had just gotten off of the Appalachian Trail. I had spent 4 months hiking the Appalachian Trail, and I think she just thought that was kind of quirky. Why would someone hike 2,100 miles? That doesn't make sense. Why would someone spend all this time in the woods? And came out of the woods and went to graduate school at Marquette. Met Laura, and she said, "Hey, I want you to take my club team." And I was 22 years old, and I mean, I didn't have any licenses. I had nothing, and so something clicked there, and I said yes, and we had a lot of success. We won the state cup title, and really good things happened, and so that sort of propelled things. But the thing that she said, she ended up shortly after dying of cancer. She was the head coach at UW Milwaukee. After she gave me her team, she went to UW Milwaukee. And shortly before she died, I was talking to her, and she said to me, all these coaches, male coaches, will coach boys and men exclusively. They'll coach a girls' team if they have to, but they're always just kind of waiting around to get the boys' team or the men's team. And she said, you know what I really want you to do? I want you to just coach girls' teams. And again, I don't know exactly why she would say that, but I respected her so much. I said to her, I said, Laura, yeah, I'll devote my life to coaching girls and women. And she died shortly after. And she must have known something, because then I had 4 daughters. But to this day, I have never taken, I do clinics with boys and camps and things like that, but I've never taken a boys or a men's team. So my entire career has been kind of in honor of Laura, totally devoted to girls and women. So that, I think, has been a real motivating factor for me too, because I see my coaching not as just something I do, but as sort of my mission, to honor a person I deeply respected.
There it is. That's head coach John Burke of the USLW side. We'll take a quick step aside. When we're back, we're going to wrap up with our look around the leagues, brought to you by Carthage College. We'll be right back on Talking 262.
Located in southeast Wisconsin, come discover Racine County. Plan your visit today at visitracinecounty.com.
We're back on Talking 262. Arnav, Pokhrel, Karsten, Luedtke, and head coach John Burke of the USLW side. We've done our interview. We've talked about the opponents upcoming. We're going to now look around the leagues, which is brought to you by Carthage College. We want to remind you that the 49th annual Carthage College golf outing will be held on June 24th at the club at Strawberry Creek. Now named the Firebird Classic, this event is a great way to celebrate and support the more than 750 Firebird student athletes. Visit athletics.carthage.edu for registration and sponsorship information, or to donate directly to Carthage. So, our look around the leagues is brought to you by Carthage College. We're going to start in the W League. No Heartland Division teams are in the Week 2 power rankings. That doesn't really surprise me because none of them have really played a game. So, we'll get there shortly, and I assume teams like Aurora, Riverlight, RKC will start making national news headlines in the W League as soon as play starts. But, for now, no teams there. And, Coach, you mentioned sellouts. Oakland Soul sells out 3,500 seats. Richmond Ivy sells out 6,000 seats. It's great to see women's soccer booming right now in the W League.
Yeah, it's really exciting too. One of my former players, Leslie Osborne, is a part owner now for Bay FC, and that's a new franchise in the NWSL, and they are doing a fantastic job selling a lot of tickets, generating a lot of excitement. So super excited for Leslie. She's such a fantastic human being. Coach her from the time she was little all the way through her senior year in high school. And to see her now become this high-powered businesswoman who is running a franchise, I mean, that's what you hope for as a coach, that kind of experience.
And then on the League Two side, Carson, I mean, a lot of news, but the big one for us, Des Moines Menace, who knocked RKC out. I mean, they struggling early on.
Yeah, they ended up drawing their season opener against Peoria City, and then they ended up getting the big win, 5-0 over Chicago Dutch Lions in the middle of last week. But
this is a Des Moines Menace team that historically is really good, and great ownership there in Kyle Kraus in that Kraus community, and really good buy-in as well from the community. I know we're building that here in Racine as well, but struggling early on against Peoria City, but able to get that 5-0 victory against Chicago Dutch Lions. Looking ahead around the schedule for RKC, only 2 games this week. We've got one on Sunday, our USLW League season opener against Chicago City at home at 7 p.m. And then one in a week on Saturday at home against Rochester FC. And to wrap things up, our next episode is going to be hopefully next Friday. We'll have Jaden Strumeyer of the USL League 2 team with us from UNCW. We'll hopefully have head coach Matt Foldsey, or we'll have Karsten Luedtke here with me as well. And finally, want to thank our sponsors. Our goal sponsor, Visit Racine County, is also hosting us for this, which is great. Our athletic training sponsor in Mosh Athletic Training, Right Onion Racine, who's our post-game meal sponsor, Carthage College equipment sponsor, and Cam Shuta, who is our save sponsor. I want to thank all of them for their continued support of RKC. I want to remind you that if you want to sponsor RKC, you can reach out to us on social media. And as always, we're going to leave the floor to you, Coach, for your final word of the afternoon.
I would say if you are interested in sponsoring a team that you can be proud of, I mean, not just for the way they play on the field, but the way they behave in the community, this is a great opportunity. And I would say, even more importantly, parents, if you have young daughters who you want to meet, you want them to meet people who they can look up to and trust as great role models, I don't think there are many better places than getting out to an RKC girls clinic, getting out to a game. Hey, we'll stay after the game. You want to bring your daughter down from the stands and meet the team? 100%. I mean, we are all about that. So I know we're having Polonia out on Sunday.
June 3rd, I think.
Was it June 3rd?
June 3rd, yeah.
So, this is something we want to do if you are part of a club and this sounds like something that would be great for your daughters. Contact your club president and say, hey, we want to come down to a home game, and contact us. We'll set it up and we'll walk you out at the national anthem. I mean, we'll make it a special experience.
That is head coach John Burke of the USLW League team. That's Karsten Luedtke. I'm Arnav Pokhrel, and that's another episode of Talking 262. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Friday. Jaden Strumeyer will be in the seat next to me, and hopefully head coach Matt Foldsey or Karsten Luedtke will be joining me then as well. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow for the USLW League home opener.
Yeah.